treat we have in store here with the top 3 in the championship starting in the top 4 positions. It's Lot Brave on his second pole position off the day, random grid this time. VX Dave alongside gets a better start and launches up the inside into turn 1. Stig around the outside, 3 abreast on the grass, trying to take positions off the Renault, but it is VX Dave who takes the lead just ahead of Danny Brave, and then it's everybody else for third and onwards. You've got Apex there trying to battle with Stig, just has to duck out a bit. Oh, and I think was that bareback getting losing it out of the grass, a bit like VX Dave, but not quite as badly. And this battle for third is absolutely humongous, and Stig goes straight on at the hairpin. Apex manages to get to the corner and brings himself up to third place. You've got DTI David fourth from 8th on the grid, I think it was, in the BMW, so fantastic start. But the big losers, Stig lost out, obviously going deep at the hairpin, and also Bareback running off on the grass. There's a big battle in the midfield as there has been for most of the season. We've got Simon running 5th, just ahead of Lee, ahead of Mark. And this is really tense in the early stages of the race. So we've got the green Renault, the leading green Renault actually, because Bareback obviously going off on the first lap. But at the front of the grid, it's very, very close between VX Dave and Danny, as Danny tries to put pressure on Dave, coming up the hill for the first time, over the hill, over the start-finish line. In the background is that Lee making the move on Extreme B, one of the 4C cars into the pits early on. That was Cordless pitting early. Lee gets up past Simon, and then battling with Mark and Stig over 7th place. Stig on the inside, and Mark does a bit of contact. Mark gets pushed wide into the gravel and off, round onto the grass. He's going to recover, thankfully, no damage to the car. But that was a long excursion, and it's ever so difficult going down into Cascades there and be on the outside and not get nerfed off. Very brave of Mark, couldn't quite pull it off that time. Out in front, VX Dave pushing the car very hard, as is Danny behind. Keeping right in his case to head up the hill and go on board with Danny, because this is really tight and it'll be an interesting watch to see who's quickest where. So coming into the double right-hander now, and it's close. Danny running a little bit wide over the curve though. VX Dave keeping it slightly tidier. Who's going to be better on the brake? They're both pretty even and turning in. Lovely apex from both of them as they head up the hill. VX Dave's going to have good traction coming out the corner. Good initial traction, and then perhaps not so quick towards the end of the straight there. But good stuff from these guys so far. Looking further back, DTI Dave is trying to catch Apex, second in the motion car, so the BMW driver there trying to catch on Apex. So far the gap is staying quite stable between those two guys. Lee and Stig, well, we saw so Lee's some way ahead of Stig at the moment, so Lee's in a good position after that rather nightmare first race, so we'll see what Lee can pull out of this race. Stig in 6th place at the moment, so two pretty solid positions for the BMW team at the moment. Remember, they got that fantastic 1-3 in the first race of the day here earlier, so see if they can back that up with some solid points in this race as well. Stig definitely on the up in the last few rounds, and he's pulled some really good finishes out the bag. DTI Dave has been really quite excellent throughout the season in the other BMW as he tries to chase down Apex. Now that gap between the race leaders is still quite... Oh, Apex in the background there, you just saw him running a little bit wide, picking up the dust, but just recovers it. I mean, the car was quite sideways, but recovers it beautifully. And out the lead, VX Dave's soaking up the pressure so far. He's won the most races already this season. He's won 7 races, and would probably quite sorely like to add an 8th after that massive impact in race 1, that big mistake, hitting that curve just there. And he stays off it this time, tries to stay well away from it, but yeah, a little bit sore I think after that one. DTI Dave chasing down, goes a little bit sideways out of Cascades, trying to chase down Apex. Now this is going to be a good watch actually, on board with DTI Dave. Apex getting the car stopped well, runs a little bit wide on the exit though, and then immediately cuts the side, fearing that rear-wheel drive spring load out of the hairpin, but it doesn't quite come actually. Apex quite a lot of traction, but it just went quite deep into the Lickfoot chicane there. A little bit of lag as well. The car just moves side to side, runs wide. This could give DTI Dave that opportunity as they head down towards the double left-hander. We'll go track side again, and you can see BMW man really putting the Renault man under some serious pressure. And this is great driving by all four of these guys at the moment. The top two just breaking away slightly as Apex now holding up DTI Dave a smidge. Looks like Apex's car is set up quite aggressively. Lots of sliding again, runs a little bit wide onto the curb, and then that snatches the car and gives DTI Dave a little bit of a run, but it's not quite enough that he's going to make a pass into here. And what about just a bit further behind? Because you've got a similar thing happening between another BMW and another Renault, and I can tell you I think that Sammy entered the pit, but it's one of the exit cars anyway. Yeah, I think that was Sammy entering the pits, and Sammy with a good result in race 1 of 7th place, and Stig almost into the back of Lee. That's how close these guys are. So it's close racing all round, because you've got half a second or so between the two race leaders and Stig. Oh, Lee's gone a little bit deep into the hairpin. That gives Stig, he doesn't need a second invitation. He's straight through there and up to 5th. So another position gained by Stig. Apex and DTI Dave still fighting. Oh, Apex clips the barrier. He clips the barrier slightly, but it's enough to throw the car off massively, and he saved it brilliantly. But he's lost that place. He was holding on to that position for DTI Dave, but has had to concede that now. And will Apex be headed for pit lane as we go back to the race leaders? They are inseparable. There's 3.5 tenths between them. Danny going really quick at this stage in the race, and VX Dave still managing to hit the Apexes, soak up the pressure so far at least. So interesting to see how that pans out. Apex, Apex into the pits. You can see the Mochi car on the left of the screen there. Cordless having quite a quiet race, but he's pitted, don't forget, so he's probably in quite a good position overall. And the race for the lead is still on as we head down towards the hairpin for the 6th time, and I saw DTI Dave in the background flying through Cascade a little bit sideways. A little bit of lock up from both of these Renault guys. They almost don't look like they're pushing themselves until you see that lock up, when you know they really are on the edge of performance, trying to squeeze every last bit out of these cars. Then we just go on board with a lot of praise, Danny, as we head out of the Lickfoot chicane up the hill. VX Dave looks a little bit wide of the Apex there, so perhaps a slightly better run from Danny, and Danny's car looking quite good on the straight. Braking in, turning in the double right-hander. Of course, that look of the car being quick on the straight, so Danny's benefiting a little bit from slipstream. VX Dave is having to go a little bit defensive. He goes middle of the road. That could compromise his line coming out, but he's just about managed to get a good exit. This seems to be quite good onto the start-finish straight, which is rather frustrating for Danny, because that's one opportunity at the end of the start-finish straight, and Danny goes really sideways into turn 1, saved it beautifully as always, but yeah, that was very sideways and very full on. So head down to the hairpin for the 7th time then. Will there be a move this time? Looks like they're too far apart on this occasion. And no move yet. A little bit further behind, Stig and Lee not too far apart, so Lee's not dropped off the pace too much. We're going back on board with Danny as we try and chase down VX Dave for that win. They turn into the chicane, right-hander, left-hander, all over the oh, VX Dave almost loses it on the back end. They go through shot there, just about gathers it back together, but that's a bit of a scary moment, that's for sure, because that car almost went to the left and continued going to the left. Further back, what can I tell you? Apex is the first man out of the guys who have pitted, so he's in a good 6th place at the moment, 30 seconds off the race leader. Cordless in 7th, also pitted, so Cordless could be in for a good result here. Del Sport in 8th, didn't catch whether Dell's pitted, but I think all the rest of these guys have pitted, and Pro Bareback has retired. And out front, it's so close this time. It's 2 tenths between them as they go through turn 1 there, through Oulton, down towards Cascades, hard onto the brakes, turning in. Danny's got the better line, you saw him go a little bit tighter, but the X-Dave getting a good exit line. But Danny did look a little bit faster through there. You can see DTI Dave in the background there. And as we go down, oh, Danny's lost it! Danny's lost it on the brakes, and he spins. Oh, just so heavy on the brakes, and couldn't quite control that. And that's dropped Danny 1 position because DTI Dave has got past in the first of the BMW, and that's put Stig quite close to Danny actually in 4th place. So it's now Renault, BMW in the race order. Lee's still going round quite quickly in 5th place. It was the race leaders last time that were the quickest, but it was actually DTI Dave who was the fastest of the top 3 with a 1:24.5 versus Braves 1:24.6 and VX Dave's 1:24.7. So it's quite tight all round here. Closest guys on track at the moment, Dell and Mark quite close together. Not close enough for Mark to make a move at this stage. Dell's had some good results so far this season. Remember the podium at Silverstone Classic, and Mark yet to score his first podium this season, but again, plenty of decent results to write home about. So, Apex first bit. Right, now Danny's pitted. You see Danny coming out now, so Danny's going to lose out to Apex. These two battling for second in the championship. Now, something that we have worked out, if VX Dave wins this race, he wins the championship. There won't be enough points to gain at the next meeting, and with the drop score coming in, for VX Dave to lose the championship overall. But, oh, goodness me. Apex really pushing hard there. You saw that coming out of Cascades. And that gap fairly stagnant to race leader at the moment. We saw he was around the 30 seconds mark, and he's still around that. It's 29.5 at the moment, which fluctuates depending where you are on the track. But so that gap to VX Dave is stagnated somewhat. VX Dave keeping a decent gap over DTI Dave at the moment as well. So yeah, this race win could go several different ways at the moment. There are a lot of people in the fight for this, so I think VX Dave obviously, DTI Dave obviously, Stig's not a million miles behind, and then you've got Apex who's the first of the pitted cars. Now Danny really isn't in a great position after that overshoot at the hairpin, because he's actually behind Cordless and Apex, both of which have pitted. But he's quite some way behind Cordless, so Cordless may have a chance to finish ahead of Danny in this race. Dell is in 8th and Mark in 9th, so Mark not able to make any inroads into Dell at the moment. In fact, if anything, Dell's pulled away quite a bit, so I don't know if Mark's had an off or something. Simon running 10th with a bit of a battered looking green Renault there. We haven't seen much of him and didn't catch what happened to cause that. And then Sammy's in 11th at the moment in quite a tidy looking car, and as we know, Rob unfortunately DNF for the second time today, bareback down in 12th at the moment. Well, VX Dave bouncing over the curbs hard there. You'd have thought he'd learn his lesson after race 1 earlier, but keeping up the pace at the moment. He did a 25.4 on the last lap, which was almost identical to other Dave's 25.4. VX Dave does a 25.0 this lap. Can DTI Dave respond? He does a 24.7. So DTI Dave actually even quicker. So DTI Dave quicker than the race leader at this stage. This is great to watch. And Stig slightly slower than these guys, 25.2, but not a bad lap. Lee at 25.5. Apex 24.5. The fastest man on track last time around. As he comes up the hill, we'll see what he does on this lap. Comes over the timing line, 25.2, so not as quick as some of the guys at the front that time. The previous lap had been very quick from Apex. Cordless is not lapping quickly enough, really told Danny at bay. In fact, he was over a second slower than Danny on the last lap, so Danny will be keen to try and make that pass on Cordless as the race goes on. But quite a long way to go. We're only halfway through the stage, so we'll see where we get. Mark coming into the pit again, so it does look like there's damage on that car, so things not working out in this race for Mark, unfortunately. Sammy is going to move up to 10th position. Sammy is continuously scored points this season and got that fantastic 4th place at Silverstone Classic. Now we'll have to wait and see how much further up he can get, but you've got to think he might be up for another position or two. Sammy, in actual fact, has had a run of points finishes, bar Hockenheim, where he was unavailable to drive. He's had a run of points finishes since the first race at Watkins Glen, so the 4th race of the season he's scored in every race. Now, there aren't many people that have actually scored in every race overall. VX Dave was one of them until race 1 for the accident, but now he is not one of the people who scored in every race of the season as he flings it through the chicane. DTI Dave is. He has scored in every race so far this season, so he's had some really good results. Apex is another in 4th place at the moment, and I believe the only other man who's scored in every race so far is Cordless, who is running 5th at the moment. Cordless has scored in every race. His weakest score was last place in the last race at Silverstone Classic, so 10th place, sorry, last of points finishes. But Cordless not having the luck of last season, he's not managed to get on the podium yet, although admittedly the competition is much stiffer this year. We just saw a bit of lag as the car moved side to side there, but Danny not able to cut into him as much on the last lap, though he was still 7/10 of a second quicker. Danny's car looks so sideways through the double right-hander there, and I think we'll go on board with the black and yellow Momo car as we head down to Lodge and then up the hill now. Couldn't quite tell if all this was wide there or whether that was lag, but either way, we're in for an exciting battle here because we've got not much to choose between Cordless in 6th, Cordless in 5th and Lee in 7th. There are some 2 seconds apart, these 3 cars, so not a huge amount in it, and we would have thought Lee probably won't push Danny too hard as they're teammates, and Danny fighting for the championship, although that could be over after this race. But obviously Danny will want to finish as high as he can in the championship, and Lee's probably quite happy to support that. Lee having had 1 podium this season already at Dubai in the first race. Cordless's best result incidentally is 5th place, which he's had 3 of. He did it in the Hockenheim Enduro and Imola race 2, and the earlier race here today actually was his equal best result. Danny now looking. Cordless, I reckon Cordless must have had a track limits because he just seemed to let Danny go by there. So after waiting for the Titanic battle, it's not coming because the place has been given up quite easily. But these guys still running really close on track at the moment. Out front, VX Dave has extended his lead, but not by a lot. There is only 3 seconds between him and DTI Dave as we go on board with BMW heading up the hill. 160 kilometres an hour. Down to almost 200, just over 190 kilometres an hour through the double right-hander. And we've said this before, Dave really knows how to set up a car, and he keeps his BMW running beautifully. Almost 200 kilometres an hour there. Talking 125 mile an hour as we head down into Lodge and up the hill. And this is where the BMW really shines. It's great on the power coming up the hill, but you can see VX Dave's already done turn 1, so there's a long way to catch in not many laps if DTI Dave is to win this race. So the top 3 still yet to pit. Pretty much everybody else has, so it will be interesting to see where Apex comes out in relation to a lot of Brave. Sorry, not a lot of Brave, they're both pitted. Apex well ahead of a lot of Brave at the moment. It'll be interesting to see when the top 3 guys pit, how close they are with the likes of Apex and a lot of Brave. So VX Dave coming up to some traffic now as he winds his way out the chicane and up the hill. And who are we looking at for the back markers? We've got Simon in the slightly stunted looking green Renault there, the front end looking a bit flatter than it should, rather like VX Dave's did in the first race. Mark is out, but we've got Sammy there. So Sammy and Simon fighting for position here, so this is great to see. They're a couple of seconds apart, and the championship leader and the race leader is bearing down on them. You can see that gap coming down and down. The race leader is now about as far behind Simon as Simon is behind Sammy. So we'll go on board with VX Dave actually. Just watch how he negotiates the next few corners, hard on the brakes. His car looking like it's handling nicely actually, and look at the speed difference there through the corner as Simon gets it a little bit wrong, goes a bit wide, and Simon's got it really wrong this time. He goes off and he's into the wall. VX Dave's quite deep on the brakes actually, but thankfully makes the corner. But that's really unfortunate for Simon, who's off in a big way there. One of the BMWs coming through him now. So lapping him, that was Stig, that was the second of the BMWs. Sammy is still up ahead of VX Dave, you can see is well ahead though. VX Dave with the lights on to say, "Oi, I'm coming to lap you." Keep out the way. Obviously VX Dave had that nasty accident at Hockenheim where he went into the back of Lee, who was running very slowly ironically to let the place by. So he'll be hoping that doesn't happen again. Coming up the hill, VX Dave. Well, I thought he was running slowly there. I thought he was heading to pit lane, but it wasn't to be that time. We'll have a quick flick through the cars while we wait. So there is DTI Dave in second and Stig in third. Two BMWs running 2 and 3 at the moment. Both of those guys along with VX Dave get the pit. There's Apex again going quite squirmy through the double right-hander there in his Renault in 4th place, and then in 5th place we've got Danny, who had that spin at the hairpin earlier as he missed his braking point when running in 2nd earlier. Cordless in a fine 6th place at the moment, just a couple of seconds ahead of Lee, and then you've got Dell in 8th and Sammy in 9th, so the 2 extra cars running really well. In fact, he's let VX Dave go, so VX Dave is already just ahead of us going up the hill. Can't quite see from that angle. Mark has unfortunately retired alongside Rob, so that's 2 cars out of this race. Everyone else will therefore score points. VX Dave's still with the lights on, not quite sure why he needs those on, perhaps he's forgotten. And we're on lap 17, so there's not long to go in this now, and it really is a question of when are people going to pit. VX Dave comes in, locks up on the brakes as he goes in, and we watch as DTI Dave comes up and over the hill. So DTI Dave inherits the race lead and also goes past Sammy. Sammy really excellently keeping out the way there of the car lapping him. So BMW leads again for the 2nd time today. Don't forget he won that race fair and square and fantastically in race 1. He got off the line so well and held off a very fast Danny to win race 1. Now Dave will be pushing as hard as he possibly can, because he knows if there's any chance of winning this, it's going to be to pit as late as possible and get some mega laps in and get past VX Dave. VX Dave is back out the pits in 2nd place, still with lights ablaze. Apex has come out, he's about 4 or 5 seconds behind it, so he's not able to make that jump, but then we perhaps didn't expect it because he was a little bit behind before he went in the pit, and also had that clip on the barrier going up through the chicane, didn't he? So it's possible there was damage to repair on that Renault, and if not, there'll be damage slowing him down. There's Danny still pushing really hard in 4th place, but he's quite some way back behind Apex. Stig, we must have missed that. Stig has pitted, so this is crucial actually. This is the track position, and Stig not on the case of Brave at the moment. So Stig is actually 5th overall. Everybody else is pitted ahead of him, except for the DTI Dave, who we would expect to come out ahead, as he was so much further ahead before Stig pitted. But DTI Dave stays out for now in BMW. Another slightly sideways BMW through Cascades, but he controls it beautifully. You see Sammy in the background there, still running a fine 9th place. And the sound of that BMW is fantastic. Let's go on board and as we head up the hill. Dave's just controlling this nicely at the moment, but he knows he's got to push hard, he knows he's got to push for quick laps, and he does seem to be hitting all the apexes, perhaps slightly off there, but bear in mind this is quite late on in the race, the tyres are going to be a little bit worn, perhaps not so impactful on the BMW as it is with the Renault, but to be honest, even the Renault guys were saying that there wasn't too much issue with tyre wear around the circuit. There is VX Dave, so we're going to have to look at the laps at the end of this, so that will be the indicator as to who's doing well in this battle for the race win. So DTI Dave comes up, but is he headed for pit lane? No, he's not. So his lap time of 1:25.0, that's very, very quick considering we're on lap 20. VX Dave is some way back, obviously, as he's done his pit stop, but he's now about to come through Lodge and then up the hill, and we'll get an indication of whether VX Dave has managed to stay on the pace or not, because that can sometimes be quite difficult after you've had your pit stop, getting back in the groove, and he does a 1:24.9. He actually goes quicker than DTI Dave at this stage of the race, and that's pretty critical. That might be enough. And Apex also going really well, 25.0, so almost identical to VX Dave, just a tenth or 2/10 off. But it's actually a lot of Brave. He's the very fastest man. He does a 1:24.6, really, really fast, searingly fast at this stage. And Danny has been fast the last couple of races, to be honest. He set the fastest lap in, it was pole position at Imola, one of the fastest laps there, one of the fastest laps at Silverstone Classic. Obviously got pole here at Oulton Park, and he's had fastest lap in race 1, and looks like he's on for fastest lap in race 2 as well. DTI Dave, will he go for pit lane? He's got 2 opportunities, it's this lap or next. So as he comes up the hill now, listen to the revs, he's coming over, hard on the brakes. Make sure he gets the car slowed down. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes to DTI Dave, and that's great. But here comes the other Dave. How close is it going to be? It feels like it's quite close. DTI Dave already in his pit box. VX Dave coming up the hill now, and we can't see where they are in relation to one another. Where's DTI Dave? DTI Dave coming out of pit lane now. This is going to be really tight, but I think VX Dave has got it. Of course, what it could be even tighter with is with Apex. So Apex in 3rd place at the moment. He comes out, swings through turn 1, hits the I don't know if he might not track limits there, but he's got the Apex beautifully. It's all in the name with Apex. And he comes down a cascade. He's trying to put DTI Dave under pressure. Wants another 1-2 for the Emochi team. They had 2, don't forget, at Silverstone Classic. They also did that at Watkins Glen. They've had a phenomenal run this season, the Emochi team, and they really have been quite unstoppable. Wrapping up the team's title, don't forget, at the end of the last meeting, so with 4 races to go, they had the team's title. But the team that has really been pressing them in the second half of the year in particular has been the BMW team. Oh no! Apex goes in a bit too hot, and that might lose his only opportunity because it's only a lap and a third to go before this race ends. And elsewhere, Cordless and Lee are reasonably close on track, but other than that, nobody else is particularly close on track. So the battle to watch is out of these two, and I don't know who's going to do it. But Apex certainly losing a key opportunity, I think, with not long to go. His car looking quite a handful all race long, to be honest, though he's pushing it to the absolute max, understandably. Actually 24.6 on the last lap, which is amazingly quick, the second off this lap. So, and VX stayed with 24.8, so not as quick, but that was this lap. And Brave Danny a 24.7 in fourth place. So, this is the closest battle on track, and we'll wait and see who your second place finisher is going to be. Apex with the lights ablaze now. Comes out of the hairpin, flash of the lights. He's trying to unsettle DTI Dave, but I tell you, DTI Dave is not one to easily get unsettled. Apex moves left and right and left and right. And you know, these two perhaps had some cross words to say about each other once or twice this season, but they have raced a lot together today, and they have raced, careful saying this, but very, very cleanly and very, very well. So let's just hope they can keep that to the end. VX Dave comes through, looks like he's going to win it. Apex challenging as they come down towards the final turn. VX Dave is going to win the race, but who's going to get second place? Apex thinks better of it, he ducks out. VX Dave comes up over the line, wins his 8th race of the season. Who's it going to be for second? It is DTI Dave. In fact, with the track limits penalties, Apex is not going to manage it anyway. But excellent driving from both of them. They kept it clean but hard as well. Danny recovers to an excellent fourth after that unfortunate overshoot at the hairpin. Stig in 5th brings home another decent points result, as does Cordless in 6th there. Lee finishes 7th, perhaps slightly anonymous. We might have hoped for a little bit more for Lee after that unfortunate race 1 incident. Del Sport a little bit further back here, but he's looking to bring home an 8th place. In fact, it'll be an 8th and 9th for the extra cars, although Sammy's a long, long way back. But Del Sport comes up over the line, claims that 8th place. The last two guys on track are Sammy and Simon. Sammy's going to be the last one to cross the line because Simon was already crossed the line, albeit a lap down. So that is your top 10. So we've got 2 races to go. Sapito National for the finale, which is next Saturday, the 17th of April. And we'll see you all there.